When I first started in politics, as a woman whose English is a second language, I fought hard to be the woman at the front. And I remember that in photos, in my career, in my path in politics, I was standing on my tippy toes right at the back of the photo, trying to be listened to.
Now you're at the front
Now I'm at the front of the photo, and I want everybody to be listened. I don't want anybody left behind.
People don't have the money, they don't have the deposit, property values have gone higher. The young graduate come from university who's got the job, they're on 30 grand a year. How do you make it affordable?
Look, the housing crisis is one of the crises of our ages, isn't it, really? And people can't afford to either buy their own home or even live in their own home.
Because people are leaving just because the taxes are high and they're saying that we're just working for the government.
I mean, look, we did inherit a situation where the economy was very challenging.
The economy is the government's #1 priority.
You know, it's been very difficult for many years.
It's very easy to shout slogans. It is very easy to divide. The hard work is sitting down with people and actually getting stuff done. And I'm prepared to put in the hard work. And this is exactly the type of MP, should people vote for me on the 26th of February, I am going to be.
Today I have two wonderful ladies in the podcast studio. I'd like to welcome Lucy Powell, the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, and Angeliki Stogia, who's running for the Denton-Gorton by-election. Welcome, ladies.
Lovely to be here, Nabil.
Thank you very much.
Finally.
Yeah, eventually. I've been chasing you for a long time.
You have. I thought I'd wait till I had a special guest to bring with me.
Thank you. I really appreciate you making time out of your busy schedule. I know the elections are coming up and you're very busy, so thank you so much. So, Angeliki, now you're running for by-election of Gorton and Denton, and simple question that my audience wants me to ask you is that why should people vote for you? What changes will you bring in?
First of all, I'm going to start bringing people together, listening to their voices and taking action on their concerns. And this is very, very important, especially at a time of very divisive politics, when different parties are trying to pit people against each other. And this is what I've always done in politics. I am a councillor in Manchester City Council. I have worked here, I have lived here, and I want to continue to deliver here. So I am standing on my track record of delivery, and I am standing for bringing people together, for unity in our communities rather than division.
I love that. Bringing people together is a wonderful thing, and you're doing complete opposite what Reform are doing. Reform are dividing people, and they're using the Muslim faith of me being of Muslim origin to divide people, which is totally unacceptable.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I usually say this verse from this song that was, from this poem that was written for Manchester by Tony Wilson. And it goes, some people were born here, some people were drawn here, but we all call it home. And I've come here from Greece over 30 years ago, and I found a community that is so welcoming, that is diverse and takes pride in who they are. We stand shoulder to shoulder in Manchester and we support each other. And this is when, you know, I knew that I found my home. And this is the Manchester story. My story is not unique. This is the story of our city. And now this stands to be divided by Reform. And I have to take a stand. My first home was on Burnage Hall Road. Yes. I know this community. I remember going to the market as a student, to buy groceries. I remember walking Slade Lane and all of the shops over there. I remember seeing a multicultural, diverse community, the beating hearts. Because some people, they listen to Gorton and Denton. I think that this is important, Lucy, that we let everybody know that Gorton and Denton is Longsight, is Levenshulme, is Burnage, is Gorton and Behay, and then 3 areas in Denton and Audenshaw. So there are parts of the community that, you know, haven't really realised that there's election happening on the doorstep, and that they're at risk of allowing this divisive politics take root in our community. And I'm not going to stand for that.
I love that stance. I really do. Now, one other thing I want to say to you, Angeliki, is that I'm very proud of your party, that you made a stand for Palestine, and I think that's remarkable. First political party in the UK who's accepted Palestine as an independent state. So that's very, very good. What's your view about UK providing military arms to Israel? Do you think that should stop or not?
Well, I think that we have suspended every license, and we had a review as a government. So anything that might be going to IDF, that has been suspended. This is not the only action that we have taken. I mean, we have sanctioned members of the Israeli government, and we also are pushing for more humanitarian aid going into Gaza. But what annoys me is that, some people use this to divide our communities.
Yes.
In Manchester, I passionately believe that we can stand against Islamophobia. We can stand against anti-Semitism. And we can stand for the unity of our city. And we shouldn't let people think that shouting at each other on the streets about Palestine and what is happening there is going to solve any problems. The solution is exactly what the Labour government is doing. The solution is all of these decisions that I just spoke to you about. This is the action, and these actions will have consequences on the ground.
Wonderful. And also, we just mentioned the constituency, the areas that you're operating in, Gorton, Longsight, etc. Lots of the residents there are pro-Palestinian, and they're very happy with the decision of your government accepting Palestine as an independent state. I think that will help you win a lot of votes from the Muslim bank anyway, for sure.
Definitely.
Thank you, definitely, yes.
And also, Angeliki, you said something earlier that you're from Greek heritage.
Yes.
And I have a lot of Greek friends, and obviously I'm from Asian heritage. How's that mapped to your future? Like people who come from Pakistani, Indian, people who migrate to the UK generally work a lot harder, and they're very successful, whether you're a doctor, businessman, lawyer. They work like 60, 70 hours a week. That's what I do. How's you being Greek mapped out your career in politics? Has it given you more drive? Because I know you're very cultural, family orientated Greek people. How's that mapped your political career?
Yeah. So, coming to Greece from Manchester, my values are family values. So my mum was a nursery teacher, and my dad was a trade unionist. So I was always brought up to give something back and make other people's lives better. And this is what I sought to do. And, even if I wasn't in politics, I would still do something for my community. So it's the family values that I passionately believe in. And when I started working both in the voluntary sector with the South Asian community, as well as a counsellor going into people's homes and listening to their challenges and problems, I appreciated so much that we have in common. So, supporting our family. Looking at our older people and our grandparents, supporting children, carpooling. These are things that we do in Greece as well.
Yeah.
So I am very, very proud to find so many similarities. I mean, let's not get into food. This is another sort of thing that is just so important to me, because food also brings people together, and we have such good sort of independence across the constituency. But what's important for me is the community, is returning things back. I am a counsellor. I work full time. I serve our city, and I work within our communities. The other value that I have is listening to people. I really, really, we've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. Nice. And our politicians, I think that we need to be listening more to communities, because people have got a lot to say. So I was, earlier this week, it all blends into one now, during the campaign trail. I was with Asian women, and I told them my story. And in the beginning, they were quiet and they were listening. And then slowly, they started stepping up and coming up with problems and coming up with challenges. And they had so many things to say. And that reminds me also that, I was the woman. Mm. When I first started in politics, as a woman whose English is a second language, I fought hard to be the woman at the front. And Lucy, you must have done that as well in your career. Because, people underestimate us, and we have to fight with our elbows for our voices to get listened to. And I remember that in photos, in my career, in my path in politics, I was standing on my tippy toes right at the back of the photo, trying to be listened to. And
now you're
trying
at the front
to be
of the
seen.
photo. Now you're at the front
Now
of
at the front of the photo, and I want everybody to be listened. I don't want anybody left behind. And this is exactly the type of MP, should people vote for me on the 26th of February, I am going to be.
Well, I'm going to vote for you for sure.
Do you live in the area?
No, but I started my property career. I started my property career, and I'm very passionate.
Yeah.
When I was at university, by the time I finished, I had 100 houses in Longsight, Gorton, around those areas. I started my career with terrace houses. I'm very passionate. I know every street inside out. Like an A to Z is built in my head, because I used to go all around the different houses, see different workers, and that's what God gave me the wealth and success from starting my career in Gorton, Abbey Hay, Longsight, and I'm very passionate about it.
Oh,
so I love it.
Thank you.
I love that area. And one question I wanted to ask you, Angeliki, is that lots of politicians, sadly, a lot of people have lost faith in politicians. You're a very dynamic, driven lady. How will the public win the confidence that what you say you're going to deliver?
Yeah.
So how do you win the public's confidence? So they vote for you? Because obviously a lot of politicians before you have promised things and not delivered.
Yes.
So how will you deliver? Like there's a saying, action speaks louder than words. How will you do the action?
Absolutely. And I think the challenge these days is people come up with slogans. Slogans don't do anything for people's lives. People want security, people want safety, they want a home, and they want to belong in the community. So I stand on my track record, and where I start with people is by listening to what they have to say. And, people are disaffected, people might be busy, but you meet people where they are, and you ask them, what's a challenge? What's in your mind? What are you thinking? What do you want to be done? Because we can make assumptions about people's lives and stereotype, but we have to lean into the problems, and we have to listen and start with where people are and turn their voices into action. And you do that by working together with people. You do that by building community organically from the ground upwards. So I'll just give you an example. So one of the examples is when young people back in the Greta Thunberg era, when they were going out and shouting at politicians in Manchester, going out every Friday, demanding for action on climate change. I used to be the lead member for environment planning and transport. And I remember that, people were passionate about it. And young people often feel that they're shut out of politics. So what I did was to work with young people from all schools and put them together in one room, sit in front of them, it was scary, and get them to speak truth to power. And they had really difficult questions to ask. But I felt that, I was the lead member, and I had other members there from the council. I had the lead member for young people. I had the deputy leader. So we listened to them, and together we created a youth climate charter. And also I gave them a seat right at the front of the table where decisions are made in the city around climate change, because this is something that they were passionate about. This is something that they felt very strongly about. So I gave them the power, and I also gave them the responsibility to hold us to account, but also work with us in order to reduce our carbon emissions, in order to do more for the environment. And I wanted, and I still want, their voices to be heard, to be right at the heart of this debate. And these are the things that I want to do if I become an MP for Gorton and Denton.
Hopefully you will do, because you're bringing people together, and that's what I love about your policy. You're not dividing and ruling like Nigel Farage's party, promoting hate, promoting division because of religion, and before we're any religion, we're human beings. And there's a big constituency of South Asian people in the area that you're in.
Yeah.
It's very diverse,
It's very diverse. And
a
you
lot
know
of
what?
African as well.
It is very easy to shout slogans. It is very easy to divide. The hard work is sitting down with people and actually getting stuff done. And I'm prepared to put in the hard work.
Good. I like that attitude. One other question to ask you, maybe this is more towards Lucy. Lucy, when I started my property career, you're a friend of the family, we started in Longsight.
Yeah.
And we couldn't afford builders, so me and my brother used to buy a house and strip it out ourselves, get blisters, and then we built our property portfolio from there. But now, somebody who, first of all, wants to buy their first house, or somebody who wants to enter the property business, it's a lot difficult. Because the people don't have the money, they don't have the deposit, property values have gone higher, and you've got a good background in real estate property. So how do you make it affordable for the young graduate coming from university who's got the job, they're on 30 grand a year? How do you make it affordable?
Yeah. Straight in there with a hard question, Amelia.
I know you pushed for time.
No, it's fine. Look, I think the housing crisis is one of the crises of our ages, isn't it? Really, and you're absolutely right that house prices have got higher and higher, rents have gone up and up, and people can't afford to either buy their own home or even live in their own home, and that's why we're seeing now young people well into their 40s, let alone their 30s, still living at home with their parents because it's very difficult to live somewhere else. So this is a real priority for the Labour government, but it's also always been a big priority here in Manchester, whether that's for Mayor Andy Burnham or the council here. So right across the constituency, actually, but right across Manchester.
I think it's a whole UK issue.
It is a whole UK issue, but we've got ahead of it because we've had Labour in power in the city for longer, and then obviously the government coming in has sort of has catalysed that a bit further. So you even around Gorton and Abbey Hay and Longsight and parts of the constituency, as well as in my constituency, Manchester Central, you see a huge amount of new social and affordable housing going up. Lots of rent to buy and different types of schemes like that, which are really good for young people and young professionals sort of coming through. But can I just say, I mean, don't you think what Angeliki just said here at the start of your podcast was really inspiring?
I thought it was amazing.
I am so proud to sort of sit alongside her, and I'm the only woman that represents the Manchester constituency in the Manchester council area, and I can't wait to have another woman and sister sitting alongside me on the green benches in Parliament. But particularly from what you've heard from her today as well, is that this isn't for Labour and certainly not for Angeliki. This is not about the political circus that has come to town. Nigel Farage is bringing that to town. To be honest with you, so are the Greens and Zach Polanski. For them, this is about them and their egos and their own fortunes as a political party. But for Angeliki and for Labour, this is about having a good representative who's going to get things done and work alongside a Labour council, a Labour mayor and a Labour government to really give people opportunity in housing, give people opportunity in jobs, give people a bit of relief with the cost of living and bringing up a family, and we're doing lots on that as well. So, that's why I've really put my shoulder to the wheel in this campaign as well, because I'm absolutely determined that we get Angeliki elected.
Angeliki's got a great ethos. I love it. Not to divide people, bring people together and listen to them and hear their story and implement what they're saying.
Yeah,
she's been very selfless rather than dividing people, think about a personal gain. She's thinking about the public, and that's the way to win the vote, and that's the win, and to win people's confidence to actually implement the change.
No, definitely. And I think just so that no one's in any doubt about this, Nigel Farage and Reform, and we've got they've got their candidate as well. They are backed by Tommy Robinson and the far right. Their politics is about whipping up grievance, about whipping up difference and dividing and whipping up hate. That is how their success as a political party operates. And we don't want that in Manchester. That's just not the Manchester way. But they are gaining some traction in this constituency. And that's why it's really important that people do vote for Angeliki to stop that in this election. Because, you know Longsight really well. You know Levenshulme, Gorton, Abbey Hay, those communities, Burnage and all the other communities really well. The idea that they would be represented in Parliament by a Reform MP horrifies me. And I think and that's why we're getting so much support. This has been really galvanising, it's been really inspiring to be a part of, because people don't want that, and they want to support Labour. And I think people think that, no, they're supporting other parties. They're not. People are supporting Labour.
I'm sure in this area here, Green Reform will not have a stand a chance of winning, because it's such a diverse community.
Yeah.
Well, they've got no chance in this jurisdiction.
But it's going to be during Ramadan.
Exactly.
Turnout will be low. And
it might be raining, Manchester weather. So we need everybody to go out.
But this podcast will bring people out. My podcast gets millions of views.
And
I'm going to request everyone listening to vote for Angeliki, who's got great vision and plans for everybody in this constituency.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Talking about Tommy Robinson, you mentioned, I saw it on your Instagram as well, Lucy. You put a reel on there.
Yeah.
Recently in the press, there's a lot going about Epstein cases.
Yes.
Donald Trump's shoved it under the carpet, loads of politicians. And Epstein, if he was a Muslim, the whole world would have made a big noise and dance about it. Because he's not a Muslim, everyone's staying quiet, especially, you just mentioned Tommy Robinson, he's not spoken once.
Yeah.
Had he been a Muslim, Epstein, say if his name was a Muslim name and that he was a Muslim, he would have spoken about it so much and promoted hate. What's your view about that?
Well, you make a really good point. And look, I think what it's about, isn't it, is the rich, the powerful, the well-connected men, which tend to be white men, and how they operate. And what that has meant is that, over many, many years, often these kind of scandals and situations have either had a blind eye turned to them, or people have got involved with it. And I'm glad it's all coming out, and it's long overdue. And we do have to remember, the victims have been talking about this for years and years and years. Epstein obviously began to start facing some justice in America, but all of those who propped him up, who helped him make money, who turned a blind eye, or at worst participated, they all need to be held to account too. And that's why that whether you're royalty, whether you're members of governments of the past, whoever you are, you should be coming forward and giving a full account of yourself and what you knew and what information you divulge. Because you can be Peter Mandelson or you can be Andrew Mountbatten and think that you had nothing to do with it. But if you were giving inside information, which it now turns out both of them were.
There's clips of Donald Trump with women and Epstein.
Yeah.
I've seen it online.
Yeah.
And America's doing nothing about it.
Yeah. Well, from a British point of view, I think there's people with questions to answer. And if you were giving inside information to Jeffrey Epstein, who was a trade dealer and market dealer, then he was making money off you, and money that was then being used to abuse women and girls, and that's absolutely abhorrent. Absolutely abhorrent. And the victims deserve full accountability and full justice for anyone that was involved in that global web of power, corruption and abuse, which is what that was.
But the average layperson thinks that if you're rich and you've got power, you just get away with it. Well,
and that's what really the Labour Party, like to take, I'm not sort of, don't want to kind of to politicise the sort of Epstein situation, but for the Labour Party and the Labour government, that's what we exist for, breaking down, because we're about ordinary working people having equal chance, equal opportunity to get on in life and to have access to good education, good health, access to good jobs, good housing. That's what the Labour Party is about. And there are these vested interests that hold our country back and have done well out of all these crises and different things that have happened in recent years. So, that's what the Labour government's coming along to try and address. and it's not always popular. You know, the Renters' Rights Act that's
Changing things,
making it harder to evict people, and it might not be something you agree with, Nabil, but I know you're a really responsible and social landlord, and what you've always done in your property career, but there's other people who aren't, and we needed to make sure that tenants have got the rights that they need, or employment rights as well, against bad landlords who want to hire and sack people and then hire them on worse terms. We're ending that, or take people on 0 hours contracts that they can't live off. We are taking on some of the vested interests that mean ordinary people haven't been able to get on, and that's what the Labour Party is about.
Nice. And the other question I want to ask you, Lucy, you're the deputy leader of the Labour Party, so you're number 2 in charge.
Yeah.
Number 1 above you is the Prime Minister, Mr. Starmer. So if right now, last year, just under 700,000 Brits left UK, 250,000 of them migrated to Dubai. For me, that makes me sad because I'm British, born here, and we came here from humble beginnings, and we worked very hard, and God was very kind to us. So it's very sad for me to see, especially successful people, 250,000 rich people left for Dubai. We want that wealth to stay in UK, because obviously when there's money in a country, it helps the country evolve. So how would you maintain people to stay in the UK, make it more incentivized for them, make it more beneficial? Because people are leaving just because the taxes are high, and they're saying that we're just working for the government. That's what my rich friends tell me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to hear your rich friends sort of saying that, but I mean, look, we did inherit a situation where the economy was very challenging. It'd been very difficult for many years. As a country, we hadn't been investing properly, so productivity was low. And we do need to turn that around and invest in people and in technology and in jobs of the future as well. We did inherit a very high tax level as well. And we also inherited public services that just weren't working for people. So it was the sort of worst of all worlds. And we've had to come in and try and address all of that in quite short space of time, which is a big thing to do on the economy. So look, the first thing we've done is we stabilise the economy, and that for wealth creators and business people, they say to me that's the number one issue for them, was that they needed some stability. And that does now mean that we are seeing record levels of inward investment, of investment coming from other countries into our country, because people know this is a stable environment. It's now a long-term environment. Mortgage rates are coming down, and growth is now starting to go up, and inflation's coming down. We're really motoring on some of these new jobs of the future as well. So whether that's clean power and the real global opportunity we've got around the kind of net zero agenda and investment in that, and we're seeing a lot of money coming from abroad to support our goals in that, a lot of investment, which is good, and that's providing good jobs in parts of the country where they've not seen that investment before, whether that's the North East, North Wales, coastal communities and stuff, which is good too. And new technology. We've got a real cutting edge in knowledge, through our great universities, in computing, science and technology, and we're really kind of motoring on that. So I'm optimistic about our economic future, and and I think actually people want to live here in the UK because of our values. I love the UK. I love it. And they share our values as well. So it's not just about the taxes you pay and your sort of economic kind of contribution, but I think for a lot of people who choose to live in the UK and who want to live in the UK, it's because they share British values of tolerance, of openness, of equality, of justice. And that's what we're about as a country, and I think that's why as well as our culture, our creative industries and all the things that are on offer that maybe aren't on offer in somewhere like Dubai, which is, I'm sure, is why you're still here, Nabil.
The only thing I like about Dubai is the weather. It's really good.
Well, look, but I
can't change the weather.
I can't change the weather, but I think when we all complain when it gets too hot, don't we? So we quite like our weather. It makes us hardy. It means that we've got good designs of coats and fashion, not just waltzing around in bikinis the whole
And
time.
considering you like cricket, Lucy, we need the weather for cricket.
We had a great weather for cricket last
yeah.
year, I have to say. But yeah, the year before was very wet. But yeah.
So cricket, you need the weather. Now, Lucy, Anas Sarwar, who's a leader of the Labour Party, is a friend of mine. He's been on my podcast. I messaged him the other day when I saw the Sky News article. He wants Keir Starmer to step down as PM. Now, if Keir Starmer stepped down, who is you report to, he's one above you, would you be the PM? Would you go? Because I think you'd do a great job.
Well, I absolutely don't want Keir Starmer to step down.
But say if he did, I'm asking a hypothetical
question.
Well,
look, Anas is a friend of mine as well.
Yeah.
And Anas will be a fantastic First Minister of Scotland, and I really want him to be the First Minister of Scotland. And I'm actually up in Scotland next week, meeting with him and a lot of the MSPs up there as Deputy Leader, and I'm going to be supporting them the whole way doing that. And look, the job of Prime Minister is a really, really tough job. Keir never complains about it, but not only have you got a whole country to run and change a new course of direction for a country about all the things we've just talked about, all the challenges we've just talked about, but you've got all this stuff going on around the world, which is just crazy and fast and upending all of our usual understandings of alliances, of organisations that have kept our world sort of safe and steady for many years. And he's dealing with all that all the time, and it's a pretty thankless job a lot of the time too. I wouldn't wish that on anyone really, but that's why I'm very, very keen for Keir to stay in position, because I think he does a good job on that. And I think trying to change leader now would not be a good thing at all for the country.
Would you? But say if he did step down, would you go for PM job or not? Say if he did.
Would I?
Yeah.
No.
You wouldn't.
No.
Why not?
Sorry
Too
to
much
disappoint
pressure.
you.
Too much pressure.
It's not I would actually quite like to still see my children sometimes, to be honest with you. But as I say, I just think it's
to watch those cricket matches with them when they're playing.
Yeah, and it's not. I think you've got to be a certain type of person to really want to do that job, and I'm really happy with the job that I'm doing and the difference that I feel I'm making in that job, and what I can do in supporting colleagues and campaigning and out there helping the Labour Party tell a stronger story about ourselves and whose side we're on and what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing and who we're doing it for. That's what I'm about. Trying to help, I've been working very closely with the Prime Minister, especially in recent days, on how we can change the culture about what we're doing, but also how we can make sure that we're really making that difference that people voted for, and I'm really happy doing that.
The best thing I heard today was obviously you accepting Palestine as an independent state, and Labour Party the first government to do that.
Absolutely,
and
I
made
think
history.
Exactly, and I said this to an event we were doing last night, a big event we had in Levenshulme, a huge community event we did last night with hundreds of people came, which was great. But politics matters. Politics does make a big difference to people's lives, political choices, and one of those, something that I've campaigned on for years and years that I never thought would actually happen under a Labour government, was the recognition of Palestine as a state.
Phenomenal.
And
that's history, years to come.
It is, and
Our
we've done it.
Remember that.
We've done it, and that is a political choice that this government has done. And it's not it's the start of a journey, and through recognition means that we can then bring hopefully peace and stability and prosperity and self-determination for Palestine. That's what has to flow from recognition. But as a step, that was a really huge one. And just last week as well, we voted in the House of Commons to lift the Tory party brought this awful 2-child benefit cap in. So if you got more than 2 children, for whatever reason, you can't get child benefit for that for any of those other children. It was driving every year. It was driving tens of thousands of children into poverty. And last week we voted to lift that. That's going to make a massive difference to families here in Manchester, particularly, and in Denton and Gorton Denton.
It's 6,000 children that will be lifted out of poverty.
Wow, nice.
And
and that's the people we should help, the next generation. That's our future.
Exactly.
The youth is our future.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's one of my mentors, Imran Khan, told me that. He said, always look after the youth. That's why I do podcasting, to inspire the next generation.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, let's just remind ourselves what poverty looks like in Manchester today. What that means for those children is, they haven't got the school uniform, they haven't got the school shoes, they haven't got the books, they're going to school hungry, coming home hungry, unable to really learn properly. And therefore, if you grow up in poverty, you're much, much, much more likely to then be an adult in poverty as well. So we've got to break that cycle. And that's a Labour government has made those decisions to do that. And politics does change things and it does matter. So that's why people should vote.
Wonderful. We're pushed for time. A couple of questions I want to ask you, Lucy. Is that number one, during the civil worker, the legislation, for example, when I submit a planning application, so on the guidelines, I deal with the head of plannings of different councils, is about 12 weeks, and many times it goes to 2 years. So my request is to make it more efficient. And secondly, because obviously you want to develop the property quicker and promoting the area, regenerating the area.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, recently I was reported a crime to the police against me, and I reported it on 101, and the police service is very slow in coming back to you. And some people, like you read online, I've got lots of friends who are lawyers, barristers, they say when there's a CPS or investigating a case, it can take up to 2-3 years.
Yeah.
We need to make things more efficient.
Oh, absolutely.
From planning, from policing. Like that same legislation, if you look at Dubai, like I reported a pothole in Dubai, and the same day they fixed it at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
I hit a pothole in Wilmslow and it's still not fixed.
Yeah. I mean, Dubai don't have quite some of the same restraints that we do, around certain things. But anyway, I mean, look, absolutely. We've just passed a huge planning and infrastructure act now. It's an act of parliament that is all about speeding up that process, breaking down some of the barriers to bringing new homes on stream faster. And we've also put in a lot of extra resources and money for planning departments so they can increase their capacity as well, because that's been a real challenge too. So we are looking now at seeing, I think, in coming months and years, a much shorter time frame between, acquiring land or having a development in mind, putting in applications and getting those things built. We're going to see a much shorter time frame for a lot of that, which is good. And you're right about crime as well. I mean, again, we inherited, after austerity and everything, huge, big cuts to police numbers. That wasn't really a priority for the previous government. We are now bringing in more neighbourhood police teams. So actually on the ground here in Manchester, our police force are pretty good. They do investigate every crime. I know that sounds like a revolution, but they actually do investigate every crime. And we've got a new... another bill that's just about to become an act going through Parliament that's going to give the police, more powers over key things like antisocial behaviour, lower level crime, knife crime, and that kind of shoplifting as well. Because basically the previous government pretty much legalised shoplifting. For you had to kind of steal over a certain amount, and that just meant that's a real challenge. So we're toughening all of that up, more resources into the police, more focus on neighbourhood police teams, and I think people will, and we are starting to see crime levels coming down.
Because if the crime level comes down, Lucy, that will win confidence of the public, and more people invest and come to the UK as well.
Definitely.
A prime example is Tom Cruise had a £35 million apartment in London, and he left that because of the Rolex robbery in Knightsbridge. I don't know whether you saw it.
Right, okay.
And so he's a great
the circles
candidate.
You're in, Nabil. Mine's more like problems with quad bikes, down Clayton Vale.
I just read it online.
But anyway,
people send it to me. I read it. And so the Knightsbridge robbery at number 1 Hyde Park, people robbed all the watches, Rolex ones. Tom Cruise saw it and he left his apartment.
Yeah, I mean, look, often the perception of crime is worse than the actual reality of crime. But one of the most kind of popular things that I've done recently in my area, which is very nearby, Angeliki's, is this thing. We've got new powers to seize and crush quad bikes and illegal motorised vehicles. So I went along with the police, and we actually I sat in the crusher, and we picked up the bikes and crushed all the bikes that they'd seized, because it caused.
Why not donate them to charity?
Well, because they end up back in because these are like motorised bikes that have been they're often just used for drug deals and things like that. So
preventing crime.
Yeah, preventing crime and
prevention rather than cure.
And that kind of antisocial behaviour can be a real problem, for communities. And that's the sort of level of crime that I think sort of needs tackling. But yeah.
So another angle to this is that the government has given GMP, given a Greater Manchester 165 million to spend on policing. And if I do get elected, I want a fair bit of that to be spent on frontline policing, tackling antisocial behaviour, and all of these issues. I don't know how many Rolexes are in the constituency, but it is the petty crime.
Yes.
It is the antisocial behaviour that is bringing communities down. And when you live in a community where, young people don't have many things to do and hang about, people have the laughing gas in their car and sort of throw it out. It brings the community down.
And
these are the very bread and butter things
absolutely.
that people are talking to us about on the doorstep. And what I want to do is to fight with Lucy for this resource, for every corner of Gorton and Denton, because different areas have got different challenges. It is a very, very diverse constituency.
And Angeliki, like some of the key issues she's been talking about in this campaign are not what Nigel Farage or Zach Blansky coming into town. She's been talking about accessibility at train stations, getting more connectivity at Denton train station, fly tipping and cleaning up our streets, crime. These are the bread and butter issues. And that's the kind of member of parliament that we need for Gorton and Denton. In the spirit and in the mould of Sir Gerald Kaufman, who was previously a great friend of mine, and you knew Gerald as well.
I remember that I was sat on his surgeries and there were 50, 60 people, and he did really roll up his sleeves and help people. And this is exactly what I want to do. People want help with the little practical things. Yes, big changes coming to the country. But people want the practical things. So linking them with a local youth group, linking them with whatever is going on the doorstep, supporting them with cost of living, advocating for them at school, fighting some battles with the local councils and, going through bureaucracy. These are the bread and butter things that I have already done. I have already delivered on, and as an MP, I will have more tools in my armour to support our local communities.
Wonderful.
And I'll be working together with Lucy, with other Greater Manchester MPs, with Andy Burnham, our mayor, to make sure that these issues are what we are delivering on. No. These are the issues that are coming from the doorstep, from knocking, and from all of our activists that have been supporting our campaign. And Lucy, thank you so much for being there for me. It is great to have another woman role model, and you have done so much for the country as well as for our city. So I want to be sat next to you.
You're going to
advocate.
You're going to be, because people are going to vote Angeliki Stogia on the 26th of February, aren't they, Nabil?
Yeah, because she's got great vision for the people, and she's
does.
Bringing people together. One thing I want to say, Angeliki, when you voted as the MP for Gorton and Denton area, I sponsor a paddle club around the corner from you in Gorton, and I want to get the youth off the streets and teach them paddle. So when you become the MP, I'll fund that paddle and I'll teach the kids paddle.
She's very fit and she's very competitive, so she'd probably give you a good go at paddle.
But I'm not talking about her. I've got kids in the constituency.
Yes, no, great.
That's great.
So you'll just message me and I'll arrange for them to learn and play paddle.
Great.
And that's a good way to keep the kids occupied.
That is brilliant.
Get them off the
Thank
phones.
you. That's exactly the work that I want to be doing.
Yeah,
so
and the
I'd
paddle
love to
club's
do
called in Gorton. It's called Carbon Paddle. It's got 11 courts. So in half term we could do a campus where kids can go from 10 till 3 p.m. and they can learn about paddle and learn a new skill set.
Fabulous.
Great, that's
great. And it's good to help the kids of the future.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Because I'm very passionate about paddle.
Yeah, great.
Brilliant. So are our young people, so let's do this.
Yeah, definitely. So ladies, we're pushed for time. I know you're very busy, and my request to everybody listening, if you want to keep the community together, if you want change in your Denton, Gorton, Longsight, in the areas Angeliki mentioned, vote for Angeliki. and you won't be disappointed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I hope everyone enjoyed the episode of watching these two dynamic ladies, of superstars of British politics on the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the link below, BricksToRiches on YouTube. Thank you.